Alzheimer's disease is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, public health problem that we face. And the reason is people are going to be living longer, living out their full lifespan, and age is the biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. And the number of people is going to expand exponentially as the population ages. So there is a great deal of burden of suffering and the cost of care. And so the Congress and the G8 have made finding breakthrough treatments for Alzheimer's by 2025 a major priority. And we're working very hard in our program here and really around the world to build the infrastructure so we can meet that goal of finding breakthrough treatments and eventually a cure for Alzheimer's. But we want to get our first breakthroughs by 2025. Fortunately, we've made some major advances in the fight against Alzheimer's. The big area is in brain imaging. So previously, someone had to pass away before we could see the plaques made of amyloid protein and the tangles made of tau protein that accumulate in Alzheimer's under the microscope. Now we've developed new brain scans that can see the plaques safely. 3 of them have been approved by the FDA, and they're obtained in a PET scan that can be done at Rhode Island Hospital, among other PET centers. And we can see the buildup of the plaques very reliably and safely. This is a big advance because now we can tell not only who has Alzheimer's when they have dementia, when memory problems have already become advanced, but also who's building up plaques and is at risk for Alzheimer's. And it turns out that the plaques build up about 15 to 20 years before the memory loss. So there's a long, slow process in the brain that's going on, and now we can detect people who are in the beginning stages of that process and hopefully slow it down. That's the hope. That's really the big advance here for the public. But people have to get on board if we're going to really make the progress. So we've initiated a few prevention trials that are already underway, and so I'm so glad you're covering this story so that the public can become aware of what options are available to them. We're looking for people basically 60 to 85 who are cognitively normal. They may be concerned about their memory, but they're still functioning okay. If we test their memory, they're okay. And then we're doing prevention studies where people would come in and get an amyloid PET scan, for example, and see whether or not they're building up plaques. And if so, we're testing medication that actually lowers the plaque to see if we can delay the memory loss. So already a great deal of progress has been made. Much more needs to be done, and it's really going to involve engaging the public so that people volunteer. Without volunteers, there'll be no progress. We basically have to gear up to fight Alzheimer's disease. This is a major battle that we're fighting, not just in the United States, but around the world. And we are working with other centers to develop the infrastructure to carry on this fight. One important development is a new network consortium called the Global Alzheimer's Platform, where we're one of the first 10 sites, but there will be many more joining. We're aligning ourselves with a prevention, Alzheimer's prevention in Europe, also in Japan, in Asia, in Australia, to fight Alzheimer's disease. And what that means is we're going to find centers that are highly productive, like ours, where we can carry out the studies that I mentioned earlier, and we can really accelerate drug development. We're going to really streamline. And if you think about World War II, why were we successful? We realized the magnitude of the problem. We basically outproduced our enemy. We converted civilian activity into wartime production, and we figured out a distribution plan and recruited an army and trained them and mobilized them in multiple theaters around the world. And we have to do the same thing for Alzheimer's. We really have to mobilize, build the infrastructure, and gear up to be successful in this fight.